working on the roof. So whenever we
The AC?
Yeah.
Oh,
So that you can actually sometimes hear them talking to each other. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay, yes, I definitely need the coffee this morning.
Did you finish?
Yes, okay.
Finished book 3.
Yes.
Of the 1001 books. So makes it 998 to go.
Yeah. I'm up for it.
So even after this one?
Yes, but there is so much to be said about this one. Okay, I know that we complained about it initially, and I don't know if you have more complaints to give about it, but I definitely enjoyed the latter part of the book more.
Which is weird though, because it's not even about Genji at that point.
That's what really surprised me, considering what the title of the book is. I really enjoyed this more than the Arabian Nights.
Really?
I do.
I did.
Really?
The characters were too confusing and like I didn't feel anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just didn't. Once Genji died, it just pretty much stayed the same character from book to book. So that was easier to follow, and you kind of get used to the character. Where previously you only pretty much had Genji over and over, and you didn't really know who anyone else was. Do a chapter that was interesting, but then the next chapter would just them basically just be recounting the previous chapter. So you'd read 30 pages and be like, okay, kind of get into it, and then you'd read the next 30 pages and be like, oh, I did like how it ended, where it was just.
Well, it sort of ended the way you expected.
Well, so that last little sentence where.
Well,
that appears to be what is in the book. I also liked the chapter that didn't exist, where you're just kind of reading and you flip the page and there was a chapter title and it's like Genji's dead, but there's no actual chapter. That was funny.
That one was clever, but it really surprised me because I really figured that his death would play a more prominent part in the book.
Right.
But they didn't
even touch it.
After that point, a whole host of, you really had to learn the characters and their roles over again. The chapter after Genji's death was very frustrating for me in that regard because it took me quite a while to really get the hang of everybody. So it really broke the flow of my reading. And at that point, I found it very, very tedious. But then once you get the hang of those characters again, I was on a roll again.
Right.
So
I will say I agree with that.
What I like more about the tale of Genji than the Arabian Nights is that certain sections didn't just rambled on and on about the same things, and I just got tired of it. I'm just to the point where I was ready to just move on. But this one, nothing gets too bogged down and tedious, other than the fact that some things do get repeated, but I didn't mind that.
I don't know.
Really? I don't agree with you.
I understand its merit in literary history.
Yes.
It's highly influential in Japanese literature. I'll give it that. But I'll be okay if I never read it again.
Well, did you read this blurb? One of those works that can be read and reread throughout one's life.
People that just absolutely love it. I struggled.
I don't love it. I'm just glad that I read it. I would probably. How many stars would you rate it?
My initial doing it was a 2, but then I was like, you know what? There is value to it, so I went 3. But I just
3 is your max then?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, after reading the second part, I don't know what it was that I enjoyed about it. I struggled through the first half, but then I almost couldn't put down certain parts of the second half. So I started thinking maybe 3.725 stars.
Yeah, you're doing math.
Close to 4, but not quite 4. I don't normally give anything less than a 2 just because I don't normally read or finish books that I don't like. So that's why my ratings are usually 3. So I thought, gosh, I mean, this will definitely be a 2. But then after I read more, it definitely had its redeeming qualities.
Well, it's ironic that the fact that bumped it up for you didn't even involve Genji. Like, Genji was dead by that point. So
yeah.
So Genji's a 2-star, and the next section is the
Okay.
3.2.
Yes. Did you get the same creepy feeling about Neo and his sister, the first princess? Did you catch that?
Yeah, there
Like,
was
he
something.
seemed.
Well, there was even something weird. Like, so the girl jumps into the river to kill herself, but then she doesn't die.
Mhm.
The commander, who sends, who I thought was, he referred to as his better looking son. They prefer people just because they're better looking. So he gets his handsome son to go talk to his sister, and that kept throwing me off because they never said aunt, and I don't know how they reading it was worthwhile, but the actual process of sitting down and doing it, I dreaded it.
It was
Right.
painful initially for me. I enjoyed the book more when I was able to just read it without having to focus so much on the characters and their roles, because as I was telling you earlier, that was a real block for me.
Yeah, and I think that added to the whole not being able to connect with anyone because it would be so confusing who everyone was.
Mhm.
Almost seemed like the main characters either didn't really have any redeeming qualities in a way. Just a bunch of shifty princess.
Do you feel that it was 500 pages too long?
I thought it was 1,120 pages too long.
It was definitely a marathon.
That's a good way to put it.
The book itself really didn't bother me once I got the hang of who was who and what titles they had. But just trying to figure that out was quite frustrating for me.
I did like too some of the little footnotes they made references to. I'd be interested about those stories. Like the woman who walked around with a bag of bones around her neck, or Port of Harems or something that the king had to send one of them off to die, and as like a sacrifice. But he had to choose from pictures, so all the women paid the painters to make themselves beautiful,
Oh,
and the one
yes.
who didn't was the most. Like, where's
Yes,
that
that's
story?
right. Yes.
Like that was like 3 sentences long, and I thought it was more fascinating than half this book. Glad we did it. Wouldn't do it again.
So you didn't get into the flow, like once you started figuring everyone out? I did. But then again, I don't know if it was because I got used to just the book itself at that particular point.
That could be, because then you spend 800 pages on something, you'll finally kind of just. The same thing kind of happened with Arabian Nights too, where once you got used to it, no paragraph breaks.
I still cringe every time I think of those couplets, and every time I read the poems in here, I thought, thank goodness it's not 5 pages long. I don't know why I am so scarred by that. I just could not take any more of those couplets. I think the fact that we chose this translation, it was probably a very good idea. Because I think, as difficult as the book is, he really did a good job of trying his best to explain their roles and their titles and how the chapters linked to one another.
Right.
Oh, but did you find it interesting that they overlapped in a weird way as well? This picks up, at the end of the last chapter, but then it overlaps with something else, and I thought, well, that's a little strange.
I guess that's life, though. It's very condensed, but if you look at the ages, because he gives the ages of the characters, and some of the ages was just like 27, and some would say, 24 to 34. So I guess things would, over a 10-year span, have to.
Well, we have such a linear view of everything, I think, especially.
Well, they wrote it that way too. They never said like when he was 17 he did this, when he was 18 he did. It just made it seem like it was one giant thing that happened over the span of a day.
Did you say the 4th book is some Chinese?
It's another epic Chinese.
Oh no, not another epic. Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Is that online only?
One of the libraries has volume 1, but I found.
How many volumes are there? So it's another like true epic.
Yeah, it's a doozy.
What? I thought this was it. like the last, Okay, what made it this far? Why are we doing this again?
Yeah. You got to. You must read them. Before
Yes, okay,
Yes.
all right. Okay.
So ready to turn this thing in.
So am I. I am done.